Hello everybody, and this is SAMexpert again with you, and this time with the June 2023 Microsoft licensing update. And as usual, this is a Q&A session, so please ask your questions and get responses to your questions in the chat. And I will also ask a few questions that we got by email in the end of this update. And the update, will it be quick or long? I don't know. Let's dive into what's happened in the June 1st update. So it was released six days ago by Microsoft, and you can see there are other experts already publishing the various articles and blogs on this. This is our view. This is our view, and our view is, how does that affect economics and license management? How does that affect your licensing? And this is what we're going to discuss now. So first of all, there are lots of updates. If you go to the Microsoft product terms and into updates, there's a long list of updates. But the question I always ask is, how material it is? Is it just a product rename, or is it just a clarification of terms? So that's the question you should be asking always when you look at that. Obviously, even clarifications of terms are important, because there may be terms of data transfer or terms of transfer of a device. There's a new update about that. So appliances you get from Microsoft, anything that is related to Azure Edge computing, they're pretty material, pretty significant. They're not necessarily licensing updates, but that's your interaction with Microsoft, and you need to know them. Let's start with the first item, and as we go through them, I will explain the impact, our view on the impact, whether that's material, not material, as I already said. So Microsoft, first of all, the first item on the list is updated Azure OpenAI terms. And it's more of a clarification. There is no direct commercial impact, but there's a very important clarification around the usage of your data by Azure OpenAI services. What Microsoft is saying here, and I will open the next page as well, is that no customer data will be used to train or retrain the models, which basically prevents two things. Firstly, any leaks of commercial data. Obviously, if Azure OpenAI works with your commercial data, your emails, your documents, if that is used to train the model, that may potentially leak out. So Microsoft is saying, we're not using that data to retrain the model, so it doesn't get into the model. So other people who will be querying Microsoft OpenAI services will not get responses trained on your data. So it stays yours. The other problem here that they're trying to prevent is, it's a massive issue right now, is any copyright infringement. So if, for example, you write a book using AI somehow to analyze it for various purposes, if that data is used by AI to retrain the model, then in theory, that future users of OpenAI, if they form queries around the same subject, may get responses based on that book that you wrote. And this is what, again, we're trying to avoid here. Not we, we're not Microsoft. Microsoft is trying to avoid here with this update. Moving on. New Bing search, Bing services search terms as well. Bing search services. This is a simple one. If you read into it carefully, again, it's not a commercial impact. It's basically Microsoft is trying to say, don't piggyback on our Bing search results and create your own search engine that are using the data that you get from Bing search. So don't create effectively like a front end for the Bing search results. The next update is related to Azure Data Handling section for Microsoft Managed Desktop. And let me look at the slide again. Basically, it's a clarification. So again, no commercial impact here either. Remember last month, if you are a subscriber to our channel, you probably saw when last month we decided not even go with this live. And I said, nothing is happening, nothing to write home about. This month, it's in terms of licensing, it's almost the same. And we were only through 1/3 of the updates. But pay attention again, as I said in the beginning, to subtle details behind those updates. Something may affect how you interact with Microsoft, not necessarily licensing. It can be license management, it can be license research, and we'll get to that now. And the next update is, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. Again, not related to economics directly, but indirectly, how we read this, how I personally read this. This limits access to any third party, including IT security outsourcers, even basic IT outsourcers, to any data and reports in your Microsoft Defender external attack surface management and threat intelligence. The terms explicitly and expressly prohibit sharing of that data with any third party. See what I did here? Any third party. I think this is going to impact government organizations, especially because they use a lot of outsourcing, at least in the United Kingdom where I live. You know, there's a hypothetical police force that uses hypothetical Accenture, and Accenture won't be able legally to access that data and help that hypothetical police force with managing threats detected by Microsoft Defender through these two services. Only Microsoft has access to them, or the client, and that's it. Pretty impactful. I published on my LinkedIn page, LinkedIn/in/Golev, I published a post today asking all IT security professionals about their opinion about this. There are yet not that many responses. So if my concerns are correct, and if there will be a significant response from the IT security community, concerns raised, we'll see. Maybe we can create an article or a video on that matter. And by the way, please let me know in the comments whether you have any thoughts on this matter as well. And we're moving on. There are product renames. Couple of product names. This is one of them. So Microsoft Endpoint Manager Remote Help became Microsoft Intune Remote Help. So two aspects here, at least two. If you're researching licensing for certain products, for example, a year passes from today, and you look at your client customer product list that comes with your enterprise agreement, and you see a product called Microsoft Endpoint Manager Remote Help, the old name. You go to product terms, you start researching licensing, and you can't find anything. The tip is, if you can't find anything, the first place to search for this is on the Microsoft Product Terms website. Go to the page called Updates, Changes and Updates, and search for that name there. It could be a product that was renamed, and Microsoft often renames products. There's at least one rename every 2 months. And the other thing to note here is a trend. So I've been saying a few times in our live shows here that it seems like Microsoft is trying to phase out the name System Center, at least for the endpoints. It became, about a year ago, it became not System Center for endpoints, it became Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And now it's moving to the Intune namespace. As you notice, the new name is Microsoft Intune Remote Help. So it seems like Intune is finally replacing System Center, at least for endpoints like desktops and maybe IoT handheld devices. And that may also gradually transfer into server management. And there are some signs as well in the naming of Microsoft products. They may roll it back. that may point at that. And that may also explain the fact that System Center licensing is not being clarified and not changing. It's static, and it's almost seems like it's rotting. We'll see. Interesting signs. Interesting rebranding of the products. It's still the same products. It's just a rebranding, but the question is where is it all leading to? I would be very interested to talk to somebody from Microsoft who manages the product called System Center about what's the roadmap there, because it's not clear, but there are some interesting signs. Microsoft Defender experts for XDR and hunting, basically two new analytical management tools on top of Defender data. And they were new to me, so I looked up what they mean. And Microsoft Defender, I will read from Microsoft descriptions. Microsoft Defender Experts for Hunting was created for customers who have a robust security operations center, but want Microsoft to help them proactively hunt threats. Well, okay, help. Interesting. Want Microsoft help them to proactively hunt threats. Interesting, not for the subject of this video, but I would certainly want to look deeper into what that product is, what is it for, what you need to understand from the licensing updates. It's just a new item on the Microsoft product price list. And there's another one, Extended Detection and Response, XDR, Microsoft Defender Experts for XDR. It's a service as well. It's another service. And with that service, there's a licensing impact. So to use it, it requires, according to the language that I basically pasted here from the Microsoft Product Terms page, a separate Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 1 or 2 license is required for each tenant. I mean, we can infer each tenant managed with Microsoft Defender Experts for XDR. That's all we know for now. New products. Let's watch this space and see if they become popular. Maybe we'll release a video explaining how to license them and what are the economic impacts of these services. What are the benefits as well?
I don't know that one.
That was Alexa. Alexa, shut up. Thank you. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint for servers. Well, again, if you are a subscriber on this channel and you watched previous licensing updates, I had a video where I complained about the complexity of licensing of that product. It's not a new product. Now, this month, it has got its own page in Microsoft Product Terms, and finally, it's just a simple license per operating system, per OSC. Before that, you had two ways to buy it, through Endpoint for Azure services, or through, you could buy it, but it was not an item in the product list. You could buy it if you had at least 50 licenses of Microsoft Defender for endpoints. It was complicated, and people complained about it. Finally, after more than a year, I think, finally, we could buy that product separately. Next one, Microsoft Defender for IoT. As you can see, it's another rename. Again, no licensing impact, but may affect your license management, your licensing research. So take note of those renames. And as I said, you can always look them up in on the updates page of the product terms. So, Power Platform, a bit of clarification around AI Builder tier. For Power Platform, I have an important announcement. The next free training session on this channel, and I hope to bring people who implement Power Platform, who have real life implementation experience, to that training. So I'll be explaining licensing. My colleague Daria will probably be explaining the economic aspects of purchasing and negotiation for that product. Because Microsoft Power Platform is one of the key items, one of the scorecard items on the Microsoft's scorecard. So people who sell Microsoft license in Microsoft get cookies, biscuits, for selling more of this product. So and we can see that it's already for a second year. It's one of those areas where enterprises are looking into and trying to implement. Therefore, it does impact negotiations, costs, and everything related. GitHub offering. So let me go back for a second. Again, end of June, the last days of June, last Wednesday of June, there'll be a training related to Power Platform licensing. Power Platform licensing. New products in the GitHub series. there are a few new products in the GitHub series. And I don't think we need to actually spend too much time on it. So it's interesting to DevOps people. New definition of a unique committer which impacts licensing. So if you notice, it's right now it's only related to GitHub Advanced Security. What Microsoft did, the definition was actually there, but it was only related to this particular product. You can see I have screenshots here from the product terms with red and green. So red is what Microsoft deleted, and green is what Microsoft added. How do you get to that view, by the way, if you want to research yourself the changes? You go to any product page or services page, and you, please bear with me. I'll see if I can show you that. If I can't, I'll just explain how to use it. Okay, I'll just explain it. So you go to the page on the product terms, and you select the effective date, and you can look up previous product terms. So you choose any date, let's say previous month. And there's a switch on top of the page as well, compare with current day's terms. And that's how you can see exactly what was changed in product terms. And those screenshots are from that sort of view. So they took that definition from the previous text for GitHub Advanced Security, they deleted it from there, moved it to the glossary. What our understanding is, the reason they moved it to the glossary is they will introduce this requirement that they will reuse this definition for other GitHub-related products in the future. So watch that space. Why? It may be an additional license. It may be an impact on how many licenses you require. So this is a licensing metric, effectively. A dependency, a new dependency. They changed, well, they said they added license prerequisites table for GitHub offerings. What they actually did is they deleted the text that is red here and just created a table on top of it because they added new products, and they decided, you know what, instead of kind of writing a long sheet of text, which is basically a repetition of itself, let's put it all in a neat table. The important thing about the prerequisites, for those of you who are new to licensing, is that what does it mean, the prerequisite? Is that you may not use a license unless you have the prerequisite license. Even if you buy it, even if you have a legitimate license, you may not still use it unless you have a prerequisite. In the old licensing world, the best example would be an upgrade license, because if you buy an upgrade license, you need a license from which you're upgrading. Obviously, I mean, if you are like a pirate-minded person, you could sometimes buy an upgrade license and just activate it if the vendor didn't check whether you have a previous license. But if you want to stay compliant, you need to have two licenses. Same story with prerequisites. So when there's a prerequisite, it means you need to have also that license to be able to use that license that is here as listed here as a product. These are interesting. So as I mentioned in the beginning, there are terms that are affecting appliances, edge computing appliances. These three: Azure Data Box, Azure Stack Edge, and Azure Stack Hub. You may not transfer these boxes between states and countries, even in your own organization. This does not potentially have a direct effect on the costs. But think about this. Firstly, the prices may be different in different countries and states. Sales tax, VAT, local price lists, local currencies, and whatnot. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I don't work personally with these appliances. But what I have in mind right now is that if I need to transfer them, that means I need to kind of give them up in one location and buy them or get them in a different location. There'll be delays, there'll be cost of labor, and there'll be potentially price differences between locations. So take note of that. Take note of that. And that concludes the licensing updates. As you can see, if I draw a bottom line, nothing significant happened in licensing again. New products, renames, prerequisites. How many organizations does that affect? Maybe 1%. Still, some of you may be affected, so take note, watch that space. And in the last couple of minutes, what I wanted to talk about is Windows Server licensing, because surprisingly, after we published the training, I'm not sure whether, probably we were not clear, but we're still getting questions, and a lot of them in the last 2 weeks, about very, very like low-level basics of Windows Server licensing. And just a quick kind of interruption about who we are. Just to remind you, we are a consulting company called SAMexpert. We provide consultancies around cloud, Microsoft licensing, Microsoft economics, negotiations of agreements, audit defense, a big part of what we do. And here's where you can find us. We have this training hub, SAMexpert Academy. Also, we have our own website, SAMexpert.com. We have a podcast. So check links under our videos in the video descriptions. So going back to Windows Server licensing. So let's talk about it. I'll probably switch to a single person view like this. So to remind you, Windows Server, since last year, has a different option, which is licensing per virtual machine. And this creates confusion. It was already quite confusing. Despite that, to licensing professionals, Windows Server licensing is not complicated. Apparently it is. So let me try and explain it simply without the slides. The traditional way to license Windows Server was always to license the processes and cores in the box, regardless whether you're licensing virtual machines or the entire box. It's always counting the cores, physical cores in the box. Here's the thing. What many forget is that the minimum per box is 16 licenses. And we received this week 2 questions from clients that started with, I had an 8-core server, therefore I had only 8 cores assigned. So the minimum was 16. That's an important thing to remember. There's another minimum of 8 cores per CPU. So if you have legacy boxes, I don't think you can go out and buy a server with less than 12 or 16 cores these days. But still, please remember that there are 2 minimums. 8 cores per processor, 8 core licenses, single core licenses, and 16 core licenses per the entire box. Even if it has 1 processor with 1 core, you still need 16 licenses for the entire box. So that's the first mistake that we're noticing still amongst small businesses, not enterprises. The second thing to remember is that in light of this new per VM licensing model, is that the minimum per virtual machine is 8 cores, not 16. So now you have this option to license Windows Server per virtual machine, which is very flexible, very nice, with a caveat. The box level licensing doesn't require software assurance or subscription. Per virtual machine licensing requires software assurance or subscription, so you must pay something to Microsoft on a regular basis. There's a tax you have to pay to Microsoft to be able to license per virtual machine. And the minimum, again, per virtual machine is 8 cores. So even if you have like a 2 vCPU virtual machine, you still need 8 core licenses for that virtual machine. Whether you call them vCPUs or vCores, what you need to license is, what you need to count is the virtual cores in that virtual machine, not threads, vCores. The other frequently asked question that arises now on a weekly basis at least is whether you are allowed to mix the old licensing model and the new licensing model. And as far as I'm concerned, there's still no clarification about that from Microsoft. But there's a company called Licensing School, which provides lots of, if you see white papers from Microsoft, there's a massive chance that it was written by Licensing School, and a famous name of Louise Ulrich. So Louise tends to say recently, and in every training, in every video, is that it's okay to mix those 2 licensing models. So for example, you may have legacy virtual machines running that are licensed at the hardware level with the same version and addition of licenses. And then when you add new virtual machines, instead of relicensing the entire box, you just license them per virtual machine on the same box. And as kind of having in mind their closeness to Microsoft, I would say that is probably the position of Microsoft. If you find a clarification, please let us know. That's one of the most frequently asked questions. And maybe less frequently asked question, but again, maybe that's due to us publishing that training, an hour-long training about Windows Server licensing. People are asking about license stacking. So again, old licensing model, when you had to license the box, but for the number of virtual machines with Windows Server Standard. I just remind you that if you license the entire box, it allows you to run 2 virtual machines. If you want 3 virtual machines or 4 virtual machines or another set of 2 virtual machines, you need to again assign a whole set of licenses to the entire box. If you buy licenses with software assurance, maybe when you add virtual machines, I would actually review the option to license per virtual machine. Just talked to a friend of mine from Pakistan recently, and they have a 64-core server, which predominantly runs Linux virtual machines. And they deployed 2 Windows Server virtual machines there. And their licenses are subscription licenses, so eligible for per VM licensing. Of course, it's cheaper. That's 16 licenses versus 64. But what you need to remember is that it also requires every Windows Server CAL and every RDS CAL to also be with software assurance. So your entire Windows Server licensing ecosystem must be built around licenses either on subscription or with software assurance, which is, well, another form of subscription. So, okay, we have one question here, which I'll probably take as a homework. Thank you. So, thanks very much. My name is Alexander Golev, not Sam. Stop making that mistake, please. And I'll see you around. Find me on LinkedIn. Find our company on LinkedIn, SAMexpert. The logo is here. And see you next month in the same licensing update and in the end of June 2023 on the Microsoft Power Platform licensing training. Full-on training about licensing of those products. Bye-bye.